ever looked at an old family photo and noticed someone standing in the background? Someone who wasn't there when the picture was taken. And what if that same person appeared again, and again, and again?
Story time.
Sarah never liked old photographs. There was something strange about frozen moments. Smiles that never moved. Eyes that seemed to follow you. Faces trapped forever inside a piece of paper. Still, after her grandmother died, she spent days cleaning the old family house. The place smelled like dust, wood, and forgotten memories. Every room was packed with boxes that had not been opened for years. On the third day, Sarah climbed into the attic. The attic was dark and hot. Spider webs covered the corners. Old furniture sat beneath white sheets. Most people would have thrown everything away, but Sarah wanted to keep anything connected to her grandmother. Near the back wall, she found a large wooden trunk. Inside were hundreds of family photographs. She smiled. For hours, she sat on the floor, sorting through them. Birthday parties, Christmas dinners, school graduations, family vacations. The photos showed decades of memories. Then she found one that made her stop. It was a picture from a family picnic in 1998. Her mother was smiling beside a table full of food. Her grandfather stood nearby, holding a fishing rod. Everything looked normal, until Sarah noticed a boy standing behind a tree. At first, she thought it was just another relative, but she didn't recognize him. The boy looked about 12 years old. Dark hair, pale skin, old-fashioned clothes. And while everyone else faced the camera, the boy was staring directly at Sarah's grandfather. Not smiling, not moving, just watching. A strange feeling crawled into Sarah's stomach. She turned the photo over. Nothing was written on the back. Later that evening, she showed it to her grandfather. The moment he saw the boy, his face changed. The color drained from his skin. His hands started shaking. "Where did you find this?" Sarah laughed nervously. "In Grandma's attic." "Who is he?" Her grandfather stared at the photograph for several seconds. Then he whispered one word. "Tommy." Sarah frowned. "Who's Tommy?" Her grandfather looked away. "He died." A chill filled the room. "What do you mean?" "He drowned in the river when he was 12. Sarah looked back at the photograph. The boy suddenly felt different. Less like a stranger, more like a problem. When did he die? Her grandfather swallowed. 1971. Sarah blinked. That made no sense. The photograph had been taken in 1998, 27 years later. She pointed at the picture. "But he's right here." Her grandfather didn't answer. Instead, he stood up and left the room. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Around midnight, she opened the box again. She searched through more photographs, one by one, year after year. Then her heart stopped. Tommy was in another photo, and another, and another. A picture from 2002. Tommy stood beside a fence. A picture from 2005. Tommy stood near a tree. A picture from 2010. Tommy stood outside a window. Always watching. Always silent. Always 12 years old. Sarah felt cold. The photographs covered decades. Yet Tommy never changed, never aged, never disappeared. By 3 a.m, she had spread dozens of pictures across the floor. Tommy appeared in almost all of them. The more recent the photo, the closer he seemed to get. In older pictures, he stood far away. In newer ones, he appeared much nearer, almost as if he were slowly approaching the family. Then Sarah found something worse. A photo from her 5th birthday. The picture showed Sarah blowing out candles. Friends and relatives surrounded the table, and standing directly behind her chair was Tommy. His hand rested on her shoulder. Sarah dropped the photograph. Her chest tightened. She remembered that birthday. She remembered every person there. Tommy had not been one of them. At least she thought he hadn't. The next morning, she drove to the town library. The old records room contained newspapers dating back decades. After hours of searching, she found an article from 1971. Missing boy Pierre Suomidi dead. The article included a photograph. Sarah froze. It was him, Tommy, the exact same face from the family pictures. The article explained that Tommy disappeared while fishing near a river outside town. Search teams looked for weeks. His body was never found. Eventually, everyone assumed he drowned. Case closed. But another article caught Sarah's attention. 3 months after Tommy vanished, a local farmer reported seeing a boy standing near the river at sunset. The farmer followed him. The boy walked into the woods, then disappeared. The farmer suffered a heart attack 2 days later. Sarah continued reading. Years later, another woman claimed she saw Tommy beside an abandoned bridge. She died in a car accident less than a month later. Another witness reported seeing him near the cemetery. He disappeared shortly afterward. The stories continued. Different people, different years, same boy, same face, same ending. Sarah felt sick. A pattern was forming. Everyone who saw Tommy eventually died. She slammed the newspaper shut. This was ridiculous. Ghost stories, coincidences, nothing more. Yet deep inside, she knew she didn't believe that. That evening, she returned to her grandmother's house. The sky was turning orange as the sun disappeared. The old house felt quieter than usual, almost empty. Sarah made coffee and tried to distract herself. It didn't work. Her thoughts kept returning to Tommy. Around 9 p.m., she noticed a framed family photo hanging in the hallway. She had passed it dozens of times, but tonight something seemed different. Slowly, she walked closer. The photograph showed a family reunion from years ago. Everyone smiled. Everyone except Tommy. He stood near the back, watching, Sarah stared at him. Then her blood froze. She was certain he hadn't been standing there before. She remembered examining that exact photograph. Tommy had not been in it. Her hands began trembling. No. She stepped closer. Tommy remained exactly where he was. The same pale face. The same expressionless eyes. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed upstairs. Sarah jumped. The house fell silent. Her heart pounded. Another sound followed. A slow creak, like footsteps. Above her, someone was walking through the second floor. Sarah grabbed her phone. She was alone in the house. At least she was supposed to be. The footsteps continued. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Creak, creak, creak. Sarah forced herself upstairs. Every step felt heavier than the last. The hallway was empty. The bedrooms were empty. Everything looked normal. Then she noticed one door standing open. Her grandmother's room. Sarah was sure she had closed it earlier. Slowly, she pushed the door wider. The room was dark. Moonlight spilled through the window. At first, she saw nothing. Then she noticed someone standing in the corner. A boy, 12 years old, dark hair, pale skin. Tommy. Sarah couldn't breathe. The boy stared at her silently. His eyes looked completely black. Not brown, not blue. Black, like deep holes. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then Tommy slowly raised one arm and pointed toward the window. Sarah turned instinctively. Outside, beyond the glass, stood another boy. Identical. Then another, and another. Dozens of children stood across the yard, watching the house, watching her. Sarah spun back toward Tommy. The corner was empty. He was gone. The room was silent again. Only the moonlight remained. Sarah ran. She grabbed her keys and left the house without looking back. The next morning, she returned with her grandfather. She told him everything. To her surprise, he didn't laugh. Instead, he looked defeated, as if he had been expecting this. "There is something I never told anyone," he said quietly. Sarah listened. Her grandfather explained that on the day Tommy disappeared, 5 boys had gone fishing together. Only 4 came back. The boys claimed Tommy slipped into the river. But years later, one of them confessed the truth. Tommy hadn't drowned. The other boys had pushed him. It was supposed to be a prank. Something went wrong. Tommy hit his head. The boys panicked. Instead of getting help, they hid the body, then lied. Sarah felt horrified. Where? Her grandfather looked toward the distant woods, near the river. That afternoon, they drove there. The forest was silent, almost too silent. Using old landmarks, they eventually found a small clearing. There, beneath decades of dirt and roots, workers uncovered human remains. A child, 12 years old, the missing boy, had finally been found. News spread through town. People believed the mystery was solved. Tommy could finally rest. Sarah received a notification from her phone. A memory photo, one she had taken that afternoon in the forest. Her stomach tightened. Slowly, she opened it. The picture showed the clearing, the workers, the trees, and standing directly behind Sarah was Tommy, closer than ever before, smiling for the first time, a smile far too wide for a human face. Sarah dropped the phone. A second notification appeared. Then another. Then another. Every family photograph stored on her device was changing. One by one, Tommy appeared in all of them, closer each time, watching, waiting, approaching. The final image loaded. It was a selfie Sarah had taken only seconds ago. She stared at it, confused, terrified, because Tommy wasn't standing behind her anymore. He wasn't in the background. He wasn't outside a window. He wasn't across the room. In the photograph, he stood directly beside her, his face pressed against hers, smiling, and from somewhere inside the dark house behind her, Sarah heard slow footsteps moving toward the front door.